FAANG, host of the Eри카쇼. On the E리카쇼, I talk to the brilliant leaders and builders in the blockchain space, and today is no exception. 안녕하세요. 크립토스터 에리카입니다. 에리카쇼 이번에 만나볼 게스트는 요즘 어마어마하게 주목받고 있는 프로젝트인 그래프의 공동창립자인 야니브 탈님입니다. 오늘은 그 요즘 메인넷 런칭하고 빗썸까지 상장하면서 국내에서도 폭발적인 주목을 받았었죠. Today I'm thrilled to talk to today's guest, Yaniv Tal, co-founder of The Graph. And welcome, and thank you so much for being on the show. Hello.
Yeah, thanks for having me on here. Hi, Erica. Hi, Korea.
And Vietnam and elsewhere. We're all decentralized right now. So many people in the Korean community were excited that you were going to be on the show. And, you know, I actually went to the Graph Day in January 2019 back in San Francisco. That's when I first began to pay attention to the project. I was like super excited about the project. And today I finally get to, you know, talk to you in person. So I'm also very excited as well.
Thanks for coming. Yeah, that was such a fun event. I feel like that was the very beginning of crypto winter and people still didn't know kind of what to think at that time about Web3 and DeFi. And it was just fun to get, you know, all the builders and people active in the space together for that day.
Exactly. That was exactly when the true builders, I guess the people who were really interested were left basically. And, you know, when they attended the event, I think we were all stoked, right? And we kind of had this hope, like it's gonna, you know, begin again, right? This, I think it's gonna be a momentum again. So I think we were super hopeful. And I found that in San Francisco and I brought that back to Korea. I was like, hey, you know, yeah, it's gonna happen.
I'm glad they did that, and thanks for coming.
Yeah, of course. I wouldn't miss it. I was, yeah, very excited. And, you know, I think with what's Graph, you know, what the team's building now, it's more exciting. So, you know, let's dive into the basics first. So for people who don't know who you are, right? Can you give a brief introduction of who you are and what you're building right now?
Yeah, I'm Yaniv. I'm the, you know, co-founder of The Graph. And the Graph is an indexing protocol for organizing blockchain data and making it easily accessible to applications. And really, we make it possible to build fully decentralized applications. So instead of having, you know, back-end servers that's ingesting data from blockchains and serving it to, you know, applications, now people can use the Graph to organize all of that data and make it easily accessible so that you can build web apps, mobile apps, any kind of application that loads quickly and isn't reliant on centralized servers. Wow.
Yeah, it really is a practical tool set for a lot of developers. So I think it's very exciting, especially to developers everywhere in the world. So yeah, it's very interesting. And I generally ask this question to everyone who comes on the show, but what made you, you know, build this amazing product, and what inspired you to do that?
Yeah, so I really believe in decentralization. You know, it's an idea that's kind of captured my imagination since college, and really wanting to just affect change in the world and help us build internet native institutions that, you know, where we're really harnessing the power of, you know, something that you know, really should change how everything is done in the world and gives people more opportunity. But you know, so far it's been difficult to really change some of the larger, like, structural you know, institutions and entities you know, over to you know, modern technology in a sense. And I believe that, you know, crypto and blockchain can really enable that. So, you know, my background, you know, after being in electrical engineering and studying physics and math, you know, gravitated towards developer tools, and I founded several startups in the past. And so when we started building on Ethereum, we quickly realized that the infrastructure was still pretty immature, and there were parts of the stack that were missing. And, you know, since we were bought into this idea of decentralized applications where you have protocols that run natively on blockchains, and then you can build applications that interact with these protocols without having any, you know, single points of failure or people that you have to trust to deliver that service to you. We thought that was a really, really, compelling vision, but we tried to build these decentralized applications and realized that you basically couldn't at the time. And so that's when we dove in and we realized that one of the big missing pieces was this indexing layer. Because if you can't build a good application that loads quickly, that can surface all of the data that you need, then you just can't build applications. So that's why we decided to build the graph.
I mean, this space itself is very nascent. So I think like it just didn't have that element, but you just found that niche, and yeah, it's very necessary, I think. And the graph protocol is often compared to like as the Google of the blockchain space, and I don't know where that came from, but it's a very compelling analogy. Why did that analogy come about? Do you have and how would you explain this to a 7-year-old or a 15-year-old who's also interested about decentralization?
Yeah, I don't know how it really came about. We just started hearing it, and I think people latched onto it like it made sense. And I think it does make sense, right? I mean, Google indexes the web, and anything that you're looking for on the web, it's been indexed by Google, and they actually have. Their mission was to organize and make, universally accessible all of the world's information. And I think there's something very powerful about that idea of organizing all of the world's information, but it's just that, Google does it in a centralized way. Their engineers make the decisions. There isn't anyone that you can appeal to. It's, what Google says is, how things work. And we think that's kind of, fundamentally flawed, and that we need to have, more democratic systems for organizing. And so, really we accomplish some of the same things, but of course, for Web3, it's different than websites. So we're not just indexing websites, we're indexing data. And what indexing means for people that don't know is it's just organizing something to make it easy to find what you're looking for. And blockchains produce a ton of data, terabytes of data across different chains and storage networks, and that's growing rapidly. And so you need to organize that data so that you can easily find what you're looking for, and that's what we do.
Yeah, and there's many interesting concepts that surround the graph protocol, and there's a new language and subgraphs, curators, indexers, delegators, right? Can you briefly explain how these all interact, and what are these for people who don't really understand?
Yeah, so the graph is centered around these subgraphs, which you can think of as open APIs. And an API is just a way of interacting with the computer system. So people can build these subgraphs which expose data. So for example, Uniswap has a Uniswap subgraph that exposes all of the trade history and liquidity across different pairs and exchanges. So all of that data is easily accessible through these subgraphs. And the three roles in the network are the indexers, delegators, and curators. So the indexers are the node operators that run the servers, and they process all of that data and serve it over a language called GraphQL, which is how the applications query that data. And in order to perform the service in the network, they have to stake graph tokens, and then they earn query fees as well as indexer rewards. And so those are the incentives for them to run that software to really optimize how that data is indexed and served so that people can have fast loading applications. And the delegators are people that want to help secure the network and participate, but they don't want to run a node themselves. So they can delegate their GRT tokens to indexers, and that allows the indexers to earn more rewards, and then the delegators get a portion of those rewards. And then finally, we have the curators, and they're the ones that help organize all of the data on the graph. So they might, for example, build subgraphs themselves, or they can just signal on existing subgraphs by depositing their GRT on those subgraphs on a bonding curve, which makes it so that the earlier they are in signaling on a subgraph, the more signal on that subgraph they have, and then they earn a cut of the query fees on that subgraph. So that creates an incentive for people to contribute to adding more and more valuable data onto the graph and to help organize all of this data for the crypto economy.
And the token plays a role. And can you elaborate on what exactly the token, is for in this ecosystem?
Yeah, so it's it's used for staking by indexers, delegating by delegators, and signaling by curators. So those are the three different roles, and it's really it's first and foremost a work token is kind of the model, and it's used to align incentives, to secure the network, and we found it to be a really powerful organizing force. We now have a very vibrant community of people with all different types of skill sets that are all working towards this common goal, that are now financially aligned, and the protocol itself is able to encode rules and incentives that help us really drive behaviors that are productive for the network. And so we think that tokens and protocol design is really a really powerful way of incentivizing behaviors and affecting change.
Yeah, it's a very reasonable design, and I looked at it, wow, I saw this video by Filmatic, and it was a very concise video that told about this ecosystem and how it works, and it was very compelling. And yeah, I think many people should also look at the video to understand more about the graph and how it works. But yeah, I recently saw there was a grant program for community members as well, and like people like me can also join and join the ecosystem, contribute, and as you just said, people with different skill sets can join the ecosystem and contribute to making a more fuller, I guess, ecosystem for the graph, right? And it's still ongoing, right? Is it?
Yeah, so the grants program is open. We need a better website for it, but if you go to our blog right now, we have a blog post announcing the grants program, and there's a link there for people to apply. Yeah. And really, anything that you can think of that would provide value to the graph ecosystem. We have the Graph Foundation has a treasury now of tokens, and really they're playing a coordinating role in growing the ecosystem. And so we need developers, people that can contribute in lots of different ways. If people want to get involved, definitely apply for a grant through that program.
Yes, and for now, like, which projects build on the graph, and why are they building on the graph? Like, what's their incentive, and what did they gain out of being in the ecosystem?
Yeah, we have really a lot of the projects building on Ethereum. A large percentage of them are using the graph today. Everything from DeFi, DAOs, NFTs. Lots of different areas, and that includes projects like Uniswap, Synthetics, Aave, Balancer, Gnosis, Aragon, Decentraland, and many more. And the reason that they use it is because they want to build decentralized applications, and the graph is really the only way to build like fully decentralized applications on blockchains, because you don't want that indexing layer to be, a centralized point of failure, and really, we save them time and money, because before the graph, teams had to build all of this custom infrastructure, which costs a lot of money. It takes time, and it's not what they want to be focused on. Running the servers, itself takes a lot of time, and with the decentralized network, it's a lot more efficient, because you get economies of scale where, a single indexer can be indexing, hundreds or even thousands of different subgraphs. And so there's just no reason to spend time, building and running infrastructure when you can save time and money by, using something like the graph.
Right. Are there, this is like related to future plans, but what networks are the graph integrating next? Can you maybe share a little bit more, like, is there anything happening to L2 or, I don't know, any future plans on like integrating more networks in the future?
Yeah, well, that's the question that everybody wants to know. So
number one question.
We don't have anything to share today, but keep your eyes open for news.
more on the way, for sure, right? And another question was, will you add encryption to the next version of index data? That was another question from the community.
Yeah, so we want the graph to really be just a global API for all of Web3, so that as a developer, you don't have to, piece together all of these, different things and have to understand the nuances of how different protocols work, because there's lots of complexity in these different protocols. And so it kind of acts as an abstraction layer. And so that is something that we're going to be, working on, adding more features to the graph, so that, it includes all of the data that you want to include in your applications across different networks. Also, all of the different, things that you can do, right? Actions that you can take, in addition. And so part of that, obviously, when you're building applications, some of the things that you do, you want to be public. You want to publish something publicly, and sometimes it's, private things that you're working on for yourself or for your team. And really, all of that functionality is important as part of Web3 for developers to have. And so, primarily through integrating with different protocols, we want to be able to provide that functionality in a single, easy to use API.
Right. So, it's just launched mainnet, so I think it has more developments on the way, but recently there was another news that the Graph Council was announced, and I saw the blog post and the whole list of people who are participating. What was the selection process like? Can it be changed, or is it fixed? Or I'm just curious, how it will evolve in the future.
Yeah, so the Graph Council does the governance for the protocols, which includes smart contract upgrades and parameterization, and also how to spend the funds that are in the treasury. And really, it was important for us to bring people on that really understood the protocol. There's a lot of expertise that's required. It's not something that just anybody can make those types of decisions. You really have to have the right kind of skill set. And so but the other thing that was really important to us was to have really broad representation from different stakeholder groups. And so what we identified was that there were 5 key stakeholder groups that had kind of independent sets of incentives. So we have, the indexers who are running the nodes, users or developers, right, that are using the network, active token holders, the initial team, and external researchers. So those are the kind of the 5 different stakeholder groups, and together they kind of balance each other out. And so, we just found, some of the top people in each of those stakeholder groups that were interested in participating in governance, and that way now the protocol is, governed by the 6 of 10 multisig. But over time, we believe in kind of progressive decentralization, and we would love to enfranchise more and more people. So, one of the things we would like to see is maybe we take some of those stakeholder groups, and instead of having, 2 signers for representing a group, we could replace that, for example, by a DAO or by another, multi-sig, and we can just kind of progressively increase the number of people that can participate in this governance, while still kind of, respecting that, it requires a certain amount of skill, and so we want to be like thoughtful about how that's expanded.
Of course, but it is open for more progress, I guess. And interesting. So it's an initial council. I should maybe say initial council.
Yeah,
founding council.
It's dynamic.
It's dynamic.
Part of their goals and their charter is to progressively decentralize and to enfranchise more and more people over time.
I see. And it seems also like that the Graph is aggressively hiring more people, expanding the ecosystem. What is your strategy in building out the global ecosystem? I mean, there are, of course, like the San Francisco area, but there's, of course, the huge Asia part. And I know that you are interested in building out the Asia front as well. But is there any plan maybe in 2021? Or, I mean, COVID is kind of deterring a lot of the offline efforts, but still, do you have any strategy in tackling other parts of the world?
Yeah, definitely. So right now for the initial team, we're hiring people across engineering, business, research, product. So lots of different roles that you can find if you go to thegraph.com/jobs. And as far as expansion, first for our team, we want to keep the initial team fairly small, and we really want to focus on growing the larger ecosystem. And it's really aligned with our values of decentralization that we don't want to grow into like a Google kind of company, right? We think that the world is much better with smaller, independent teams that just collaborate and have more autonomy. A lot of that we can help foster through the Graph Foundation and the grants program there, where we can be, distributing resources to lots of different independent teams. But as far as, our own team and where we put our effort, we're very, excited to expand, and we're really excited by all the activity in Asia, and we want to do a lot more in Asia. So we have Iris Ni on the team, based in China, who leads our Asia strategy and business development. And if there are folks in that part of the world that want to work with us, I'd encourage you to reach out to her. And I think that there's a lot more that we'd love to do to meet all of the different teams building in the space over there. Help them be successful and grow. Build community events. All of those kinds of things we'd love to do more of in 2021.
Of course, and when Graph was listed on Bithum as one of the biggest exchanges in Korea, it had a huge outburst and like, wow, what is this? And I think a lot of developers were also interested, and I think it's a good start to tackling the Korean developer ecosystem as well. And I'm very excited about after COVID years, and to see if we can expand the ecosystem in Asia as well. And so that's very interesting. And it's just the beginning, but what's your focus in the near future and maybe in the next 4 years or so? How long, what do you view as the vision, the grand vision of the Graph?
Yeah, so, for this year, we're really focused on building out the Web3 stack and really making it possible to build great fully decentralized applications. And I think that we're getting very close, and there are lots of, protocols that are just coming to market now. And we still need to work to kind of integrate these different protocols together and make it a really great development experience to build these decentralized applications. So that's a big focus for this year, as well as, migrating traffic from our hosted service to our decentralized network, and working on governance and improving kind of the protocol improvement process. So there are a lot of things that we're going to be focused on there for this year. And then moving forward, we really take a broad view at the crypto market and at decentralization. And, we think like this is the decade for decentralization. And, at the end of the decade, things are going to look, very different. Mm-hmm. And, we want to build that, vibrant, decentralized future. And, today, there are, I think, a few protocols that are really, innovating and leading the way. In DeFi, we've got protocols like Aave, Synthetics, Compound, Uniswap that I think have really just done a lot to push the space forward. Right. We've seen similar things with like DAOs, but really I think that we're still kind of like inventing these design patterns for how to build protocols. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, we believe that, the entire economy is going to move over to this kind of open, public, transparent infrastructure. And so we really want to help these teams that are building out these protocols to define these, patterns, and then to help weave that into like, a global, machine through Web3, where, all of these protocols are easily accessible and people can build more and more applications that interoperate and that allow developers to really express a lot more creativity and then give a lot more power to individuals. And so, I think the graph is going to be an organizing force in helping to make that happen as, we continue to work with all the different protocols and dApps in the space, index all of this data, make it all easily accessible, help people just organize information. In a decentralized way, so that we can just scale human coordination on the internet.
Yes, I'm very excited. Like just hearing that vision just makes me really excited, and I think it's definitely possible. Maybe it'll take some time, but I think it's on the right direction, and definitely with the current situation, like the global situation, we can really see this movement happen. I just read on your Twitter that developers in FAANG, which is Facebook, Amazon, that group of tech giants, are missing out in a big way or something. I read, I can't really memorize the exact words, but it was so funny. Yet it was definitely true. What will be your message towards them in case they're watching this video?
Yeah, it's just so boring. What? Why just clock in every day at a giant corporation, just being a small cog in a wheel when you can be part of inventing the future, and really, being a unique individual, creating whatever it is that you have inside of you that you want to see in the world, the opportunities, all of the possibilities are here in crypto to build that future. So don't waste any more time and come join us.
Thank you for the message. I can show this message to a lot of my friends who are having a boring time, who are very bored in their staple jobs. And lastly, any final words for the Crypto Soul community or the Korean community for that matter?
Yeah, just we'd love to work with you. We'd love to hear what you're building, and I'm sure that there are aspects to blockchain that really is going to vary, from, country to country, whether it's differences in culture or like governments and like, how things are structured. So, we'd love to just like learn, instead of, coming in with something imposed to just hear from you guys, hear how you're thinking about things. And let's build out the blockchain future in Korea and in Asia.
Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to seeing you in person. Maybe this year, next year, we'll see. But I'll definitely hopefully contribute to building out the graph ecosystem also in Asia. So hopefully I can contribute and be a member. We'll see. Thank you so much.
Can't wait till we can do stuff in person again. And thank you so much for having me on the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you.